Now to breaking news in the NSA spy case. With fugitive Edward Snowden in limbo at a Russian airport, we are joined by the journalist who broke his story, Glenn Greenwald. He's here today with new reporting on the domestic surveillance program. Glenn, thanks for joining us. And your new reporting zeroes in on one of the most explosive claims made by Snowden a few weeks back. Let's take a look.
Well, I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
Now, that claim was denied by intelligence officials, and the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers, said that he was actually lying. But your new reporting, you say, bolsters Snowden's claim.
Right, George. One of the most amazing parts of this entire episode has been that top-level national security officials like James Clapper really did get caught red-handed lying to the American Congress, which everyone now acknowledges, about what the NSA is doing. And it's amazing that he not only hasn't been prosecuted, but still has his job. And what that does is it lets national security officials continue to lie to the public, which is what happened in that exchange you just referenced. The way that I know exactly what analysts have the capability to do when spying on Americans is that the story I've been working on for the last month that we're publishing this week very clearly sets forth what these programs are that NSA analysts, low-level ones, not just ones who work for the NSA, but private contractors like Mr. Snowden, are able to do. The NSA has trillions of telephone calls and emails in their databases that they've collected over the last several years. And what these programs are very simple screens, like the ones that supermarket clerks or shipping and receiving clerks use, where all an analyst has to do is enter an email address or an IP address, and it does two things. It searches that database and lets them listen to the calls or read the emails of everything that the NSA has stored, or look at the browsing histories or Google search terms that you've entered. And it also alerts them to any further activity that people connected to that email address or that IP address do in the future. And it's all done with no need to go to a court, with no need to even get supervisor approval on the part of the analyst. There are legal constraints for how you can spy on Americans. You can't target them without going to the FISA court, but these systems allow analysts to listen to whatever emails they want, whatever telephone calls, browsing history, Microsoft Word documents. It's an incredibly powerful and invasive tool, exactly of the type that Mr. Snowden described. And NSA officials are going to be testifying before the Senate on Wednesday, and I defy them to deny that these programs work exactly as I just said.
But do we have any evidence that this capability, pretty explosive capability, any evidence that it was used?
Well, there's lots of evidence that there's been abuse on the part of the NSA. There was a report actually by your network, ABC News, and Brian Ross from several years ago, where NSA analysts, low-level ones, got caught eavesdropping on the telephone conversations between soldiers and their girlfriends who were stationed in Iraq and America. There have been reports in the New York Times that the NSA has wildly exceeded the scope of the legal limits that the law allows. There are all sorts of admissions, including this week in a letter to Senator Wyden by James Clapper, that the NSA has exceeded even the legal authority that it acknowledges it has, and they write it off to inadvertent keystrokes or technological confusion. The real issue here is that what the NSA does is done in complete secrecy. Nobody really monitors who they're eavesdropping on, and so the question of abuse is one that the Congress ought to be investigating much more aggressively.
Finally, I know you've been in some contact with Edward Snowden, and it seems like he's prepared to stay in Russia for some time. Anything new on whether that will be possible and what Russia will decide?
Well, I think that what has happened there is the United States is applying lots of pressure. It's probably at this point just pending and will pen for at least a few more days, maybe a couple of more weeks before he gets the papers he needs. But I think at this point he's actually happy that there's no news coming out of Russia, because that allows the focus to be where he wants it to be, which is on the revelations about what the NSA is doing, the incredible debate that took place in the House of Representatives this week, where liberals and conservatives joined together to oppose NSA abuses. And so I think he's content with having nothing happen, so that the focus isn't on him, but is on the substance of the revelations that he came forward to shine light on.
Okay, Glenn Greenwald, thanks very much.